Greetings to all and welcome to another Q&A session with Jim McCarty. My name is Jonathan Tong and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups of the L&L Research website shown on your screen. We do have a Facebook group and we do meet twice a week on Zoom, Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, Saturdays from 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or our Zoom sessions. Anyone who's interested and available is welcome to join. Just contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week to let you know what we're talking about that week, as well as the Zoom links. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of our podcast episodes, as well as recordings of previous Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty, Austin Bridges, Gary Bean, and Tricia Bean from the L&L research team. Just go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button if you would like to get notifications when we upload new videos. And contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you'd like to join us for any of our Q&A sessions. Otherwise, we are again blessed to be joined by our good friend Jim McCarty for some informal conversation, questions about the law of one. How are you doing today, Jim?
Doing well. It's a hot day here in Louisville, Kentucky. It's supposed to be this afternoon.
Wow. What kind of temperatures are we looking at?
We've been down in the low 90s, high 80s, but now they're going back up to the mid 90s and close to 100.
Wow, that's a lot. So that must mean watering the plants a lot, huh?
I've been watering some, yes, indeed.
Yeah, we were just talking about that before we started. I usually wait until the leaves on my plants are drooping before I start watering them. I'm apparently supposed to water them sooner than that. Well, Jim, it's a pleasure to have you here, and really, as always, appreciate you taking the time to hang out and answer questions. I do see a couple of questions in the chat window, so we're going to go to those fairly shortly. I did have a couple that I wanted to start with. One was one I've been meaning to ask for a while. I think you mentioned a couple of months ago that you normally say some sort of prayer or grace before you eat a meal, maybe to thank the animals, plants that contributed to that meal. Would you mind sharing with us? Do you have a particular thing that you say each time?
I just asked the Creator to bless the food I'm about to eat and to help me use it in a way of service to the Creator.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. I think many of those little rituals and practices throughout the day are great ways to keep our hearts and spirits open. I did have another question. I did want to remind our folks who are here on the Zoom call, if you have a question that you'd like to ask Jim, go ahead, type your question in the chat window, and I'll call on folks in that order to go. And I know I saw Christina and Mendiza up first and second. Before we do that, there was a question that our friend David emailed me about 3 weeks ago that he wanted to ask. It's more than a few sentences, so I'm just going to read his question in his words and let you respond. David says, I have the feeling that my daughter most certainly will graduate to fourth density when she transitions to larger life. It's so obvious that she is way over 51% service to others. I hope that I will do that also. It's not impossible. I'm trying the best I can to love and to love truth. But let's say that I don't make it to fourth density after this lifetime. How would the relationship be with my daughter then? She'll probably be on Earth, as it's a fourth density positive planet now, and I'll probably repeat third density in another space-time. Would the love that we feel for each other still matter as a way of connection in that case, or would we be separated since we are in different densities on different planets? Please talk about the importance of love through the densities and space-time and time-space.
Well, first of all, I would say that the love that you have for your daughter and the love your daughter has for you will always connect you, no matter what density you are in. Secondly, I'd like to echo Carla's words. You can't take your own spiritual temperature. This is not the density of understanding. You may have feelings that you will or will not make the graduation into fourth density, but I think the most important thing, again, comes from Carla. Set your intention to be as loving as you can, to open your heart and love to everyone around you, and to see the Creator in everyone. So if you can open your heart and do that, then you are going to make it to fourth density. If you can do that more than 50% of the time, that's basically it.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful response. I would hope that is indeed the case. Much appreciated. Hope that answers your question, David. And folks who are on the Zoom call, did want to encourage you, if you have any follow-up questions or clarification questions, feel free to raise your hand on camera or hit the raise hand button and the react button on your Zoom window. And glad to continue the conversation that way. Otherwise, I see Christina had a question in the chat window. Christina, would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Yeah. Hi. I want to know your thoughts on ET landings happening in our lifetime. So I was listening to The Secrets of the UFO last night, and there was a channeling that said soon, but clearly that's subjective because their timing is different than ours. So I wanted to know, like, has anything come up in quote channelings or any other channelings, or what are your thoughts in general that will happen?
Well, I think that there is a lot of information that it suggests that landings have already occurred in various places at various times. As you may know, the Native American or indigenous peoples all over the world have supposedly had contact with UFOs for thousands of years, not necessarily seeing a landing, but getting communications telepathically. Other types of UFOs, I think over the years, Roswell, New Mexico, 1947 is a good indication of how a crashed UFO was recovered then. And supposedly there are crashed UFOs at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base outside of somewhere in around Cincinnati, as a matter of fact, in Ohio, I guess it is where. So it looks like, and just before I came on board here, I was having my lunch and listening to my iPhone news, and they were talking about UFOs and how the government has been keeping information about UFOs secret for numbers of years because they weren't sure whether they were a danger to the United States or if it was simply that various portions of the government did not get together on what information they had. So it looks like there's a very good case that there have been some landings in the past. There have been communications. They happen to mention the same UFO sighting that Don Elkins was part of back in 1947 when he was 17 years old. That was Captain Tom Mantell that was flying for the Kentucky National Guard. And he was coming back to Louisville from with two other pilots flying P-51s, and they were going to Standard Field. But that morning, there had been about 30 calls to the state police saying that there had been an unusual object sighted around Mayfield, Kentucky. So they had Captain Mantell change his course to find out if there was something there that needed to be taken care of. So when Mantell got there, he said that he did see something that it was metallic and it was huge. And as soon as he reported that back to Godman Field Tower in Fort Knox, the UFO shot straight up. And he followed it. But since he had a World War II P-51, he didn't have oxygen. So at 20,000 feet, after he'd reported seeing entities inside, he passed out because he didn't have oxygen. The plane crashed and he died. So that was actually the beginning of Don Elkins' spiritual journey, because at that time, Captain Mantell was 25 and Don was 17. And he was taking flying lessons from Captain Mantell. So they were good friends. So when the report came to Don that Captain Mantell had died chasing UFO, that began Don's spiritual journey. Is there life beyond the life we know now? If so, what is it like?
Wow. Powerful catalyst for sure. Did you have any follow-ups?
Follow-up?
Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up? I think part of what I'm interested too is the mass landings in terms of connection. Like we finally get to know that they're here. We finally get to embrace them as brothers and sisters, and our collective finally gets to just know they're here and just.
Well, I think that you probably know that at LNL Research, all of our research has come from UFO contact. beginning back in 1973 when Carla first started channeling. She contacted an entity called Heton. The first message was, "I'm having much difficulty with this instrument." And that was the length of the message that day. But that was the beginning. And then in 1961, much later, when she and Don Elkins got together after Don he was a physics professor at the University of Louisville at the time. And from the time of Mantell, he'd been trying to figure out what there was about UFOs that he could discover more information. And so he did a number of age regressions to prove that reincarnation worked. Then he heard about a group in Detroit run by Walt Rogers. Walt Rogers apparently had a face-to-face encounter with one of the entities from Heton, and he had what was called the lingering telepathic contact afterwards. And Heton said, "If you want to get together a group of seekers like you are, we'll be happy to talk to you about your spiritual journeys." So that became what we called the Brown Notebook information. And when Don found out about that Brown Notebook information, he decided to try that experiment with 12 of his physics students. And one of his students asked if he could bring his girlfriend. And of course, that was Carla. And so he didn't tell them they were going to try to reach UFOs. He just said, "We're going to meditate once a week together and something interesting might happen." So through the next couple of months, there wasn't any contact. There's a lot of what in those days we call conditioning, slurping of tongues and the hair on the back of your neck raising or your arms. So Walt Rogers came down from Detroit and channeled Heton, which blew the experiment. And they said, "We have contact with most everyone in this group, but you're not speaking what you're hearing. You think you're making it up. What you need to do is say what you're hearing. Don't analyze it now. Analyze it after it's over. If you analyze it now, you'll stop the process." So that's how it got started at L&L Research.
Fascinating. Yeah, I believe I was reading your entry yesterday in the Camelot Journal where it was very much that situation. It was a channeling session with Hatan in the early 70s, I think. And I think they were saying exactly that same thing. There were a couple of new channels trying to make contact and having a hard time because Hatan was saying you're analyzing what you're thinking and you can't do that. You got to just say it as it comes to you.
Yeah, I've been working with the Heton channelings now, starting with the first one I just mentioned. And in those days, they had that 2 a day, every day for a long time. And the reason they were training new instruments, new channels. And usually it was Carla there, but I find another, they didn't give any other names, H or T or J or O, was trying to learn how to channel. And then usually it was Carla's channeling that was long enough for me to deal with, to discern and find a quote that would go along with it. So they were working very hard back in those days.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. It's as great a contact with extraterrestrials as I could ever wish for, because if they ever land here in a ship, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to talk to them and ask them questions or listen or anything like that. Do you have a thought, Jim, if I remember correctly, I think I've seen Quo say more than a few times that they kind of realize that making physical contact never goes as they want, and their message is always distorted into something of STS nature. Do you think it would be fair to say if a physical craft ever landed on Earth and aliens came out, it would probably not be Confederation entities?
Well, back in the days of the raw contact in the early 80s, the message we got from Ra was that most of the extraterrestrials of a positive nature had decided, just like you said, not to try to make contact because it was usually misinterpreted. So most of the contacts or the sightings at the time were negatively oriented UFOs from the Orion Empire.
Yeah. Or even of U.S. origin. I do recall those famous sessions in the Raw Contact where they talked about our government already operating 500 plus UFO type craft and stations on the moon and underseas and such. I don't think there were any follow-up questions on that in the Raw Contact or with Quo. Am I inferring correctly that the folks on the channeling team decided that that was just really questions of a more transient nature and not really of enduring spiritual principles?
Yeah, that was basically
It's
it.
kind of the main focus for the contact.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. I'm glad for that. Thanks for the discussion. If no one else had any other follow-up questions on that, I believe Mendiza had a question up, and then we have Maria and Grace. Mendiza, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure. Good morning, Jim. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Um, Good to see you. I had a question. I'm reading Voices of the Confederation. And last night specifically, I was listening to about entering the silence. And I know you get asked this like a million times a day, how do you meditate correctly? But my question is, I understand we're supposed to be quiet, we're silent. It's opposite of prayer where we're asking for things, right? We're listening. I think, and I guess it's like a two-in-one question because I was also curious about the section pertaining to desire based on the creator, like true desire. So not material things, but like based on what the book was saying, true desire is love, like the real love. I think my question is like, how do you know if you're doing it right? Because last night I was meditating. I'm like, okay, I'm quiet. I'm seeking true desire, And then I know I've got some things in the back of my head, like, oh, I'd love perfect healing. That would be great. And I'd like, so I just was kind of curious about when it comes to I guess to make a more succinct question, one, when it comes to meditation, truly, are we just sitting there? Is it really just to sit and be with the presence? And then two, in terms of true desire, is it okay to ask for a desire that has to do with something holistic, like healing or health or joy? Would that be what the Confederation was trying to like guide us towards? So those are my two questions.
Okay, well, I think there are a lot of different kinds of meditation, and you really have to determine what you would like to do. Um, Basically, Carla said if you simply sit in silence and seek the presence of the Creator, that you can get a feeling, sometimes words, but usually it's a feeling that's too deep for words. And that later in your life, as you're through meditating that day, opportunities will come your way to be of service to others, or coincidences will come your way to let you know that whatever you're doing at that time is something you should continue to do. And as far as your second question was,
Oh, it was just pertaining to true desire. And like, I guess maybe understanding a little bit more of like, what did they mean by that? Like, is it just love? Is it just love, or is it more other things as well?
well, I think that true desire is what you can determine yourself. If you want to meditate for healing, to receive healing, or to help somebody that's got a problem, then you can set your intention to do that. And that would be basically a kind of prayerful meditation, praying for yourself, praying for another person. Like I said, there are as many types of meditations as there are people.
So it's not necessarily with the Confederation, it's more a suggestion, like it's not like a one and done, I guess. I guess I'm kind of like my personality is like, what's the right answer? So as you can see from my question. So I think that's why I'm kind of, but it sounds from what you're saying, Jim, is like there is just a lot of different versions and avenues we can take.
Yes. I think in general, probably the most popular, the most used type of meditation is simply to sit in the silence and to try to keep your focus on one point and to forget about any thoughts, that the thoughts that come, go, don't hang on to them, and just try to be in the silence. And I think that allows you to be in the presence of the Creator. They can give you what, like I said, thoughts that are too deep for words.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your questions.
It's a great question, Mantisa. Jim, do you think it would be fair to say that anything could be done in a meditative state, whether it was like gardening or playing music or dancing or walking in nature or washing the dishes. Could any of those be a form of meditation?
Oh, definitely. I think walking meditations in nature are probably one of the most favorite for people to do. Don always thought that he was always in a meditative state, except for when he was off, flying for Eastern Airlines, and then he pretty much had to be conscious of what he was doing. But when he was at home, he would frequently just lie on the couch and use his finger and draw things in the air, and then think for a while. So I think he might have been meditating, whether he was eyes closed or not.
Oh, that's fascinating. What was he drawing in the air?
I've never known. It was always a question. I never really asked him what he was drawing in the air, but he did.
That's funny. It was either like sacred runes or cartoon ducks or something, I'm sure. Matt Disa, did you have a follow-up question? I thought you saw your hand up for a minute.
I did, because I was thinking maybe, so you had mentioned like after the fact, you're getting information later, right? Like to be called to do something. And I think that's probably why I'm sometimes thinking something will happen in the moment of meditation or in the moment. And so I think from what you're saying, Jim, is like it could be a mix of both. You could get something then, and it also could be later as the day unfolds.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful question, beautiful conversation. Much appreciated. I did want to note for our viewers that we did do a Seattle Law of One podcast episode on meditation months ago, when we looked at several different passages from Ra and Quo talking about different forms of meditation. So check it out on our YouTube channel if you're interested. Otherwise, I saw Maria had a question, followed by Grace and then Dan. Maria, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say I'm thrilled to be here with you, Jim, and to be able to ask you questions. Amazing. So I'm interested in particular, Jim, about the healing work that was talked about in session 5 and 6. I was wondering if you had any insights or understanding into what they were talking about.
Well, basically, the healing work is work that we can do on ourselves by using the experiences we have during the day, what Ra called catalysts that might be positive or negative, difficult or joyful. And at the end of the day, that we can balance those so that we feel an acceptance of whatever catalyst by accepting its opposite. And so if we feel a joy, then sorrow could balance that. If we feel sorrow, joy could balance that. And that balances our energy centers so that if there is a chance in the future that we would like to serve as a healer, that we could contact the person, or the person who wants to be healed could contact us, and we could work then to allow the healing energies, the one infinite creator, to flow through that person. And that would allow that person to heal him or herself. So I think that's basically kind of a little synopsis of what 5 and 6 are talking about.
Yeah, so how in practicality, let's say what you do that, let's say you had a lot of sorrow during the day. So at the end of the night, what would you do with something like that?
Okay, you would, at the end of the day, you look back over the day, and if you found a place in the day that there was sorrow, you would mentally and in your meditation relive that experience. And then you would magnify it, make it worse and worse and worse. And then for just an instant, you would image the opposite of joy, and then let it get just as big as the sorrow. And then you would accept yourself as having both of these ways for the creator to know itself through you, and for you to know more of yourself and the creator. And basically, it's helping you to become the creator a 360-degree being that has every experience, positive and negative, that you could ever imagine, as a means of helping it to know itself. And that's why we're all here.
Ah, okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you. And then I was interested in session 6 about opening the channel for wind and fire to connect. Do you have any understanding of that?
Well, basically, earth, wind, fire, and water are the 4 elemental qualities, or the first beings that were on the planet. And fire and water taught earth and wind to be receptive of energies of other levels of being, so that the earth could grow plants and animals into second density and so forth. So those are the elemental qualities that begin the life on Earth and any planet at the very beginning of the planets, moving through the densities of experience.
So what was Ra talking about by like having your channel, I think channel opened, so that the wind and the fire could connect? What does it mean, do you think, by opening the channel passage or pathways?
Well, I think that what Rob was talking about was how you could become the wind. You could feel that energy of the wind or the water or the fire or the earth within your being. So that would be a connection that you could make with Mother Earth.
Mm. Do you have any ideas of what that would look like?
Not really. I think it's something everybody experiences in a unique way. It's just opening yourself to that possibility of experiencing what each of those elements is like, as far as you can understand it, as far as you can experience it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Do you have anything further to add or to say regarding the area of healing?
Well, basically, the very fundamental part of the healing is that the healer, as Roz said, does not heal. The healer allows those energies of the creator to move through the healer to the one to be healed, so that the one to be healed actually heals him or herself.
Yes.
Those
Wonderful.
are great questions, Maria, and great follow-up questions. Much appreciated. I think Christina also has a follow-up question.
I do. I wrote down. So Marie's question about the emotions and the states of being. So I think I'm being very literal, like Lindsay said was earlier. Like, is it a 1-to-1 ratio? So I've lived in a lot of pain in my life, and now I'm in the parts of feeling the joy. And part of me is like, oh, well, now that I'm feeling joy, I need to go back and feel the pain. But is it more just like our whole life of reconciling those emotions and finding that middle ground? And is it, can I live in a state of joy, or am I supposed to live in that neutral middle ground? Does that make sense?
Well, I don't think that you really can make a choice as to whether or not you're going to live one way or another. I think what your choice is how to deal with what happens to you, if it's joyful or painful or unimaginable. This is what is the catalyst of the day. And you work with that so that slowly but surely you become more balanced in all of these ways of feeling emotions and thoughts. And as I said, then that allows you to become more and more of the creator. We're all here moving through the densities of experience to increase our knowledge and experience of the creator. In the third density, we don't do that so much in a conscious way, because, as Ross said, this isn't the density of understanding, but we do use the catalyst that comes our way every day to balance so that we move forward step by step in accepting whatever catalyst comes our way by balancing it with its opposite and continuing to move forward on that path. And it's a path that might take more than one incarnation. And eventually, if we're able to open our heart in love and acceptance of everyone around us and see the creator in everyone around us more than 51% of the time, then we'll be able to move into the fourth density of love and understanding, where there isn't any veil of forgetting. And then the process becomes much easier in one sense, in that we see, we can understand. But if we can do that same thing here in the third density with the veil in place and keep moving forward using our catalyst, then we can move actually faster in a polarization of our consciousness in the positive sense.
So do you think it's fair to say, as you were saying that, I just realized, so emotions like joy, happiness, all of these things are distortions of the law, and then ultimately love is, once that's the discipline of the personality, is love. So like, I guess for part of me kept thinking, well, if I'm living in a state of love, am I balanced? Okay, I'm right.
I think that in the overall sense, that love is probably the quality that builds more and more frequently, more powerfully, as we use all of our catalysts. Love and acceptance of whatever happens to us, and love and acceptance of those around us, no matter what they're doing, seeing them as the creator and not judging them or judging ourselves. So I think that eventually that love is what it accumulates more in our experience as we use the balancing exercises, as we use the catalyst that comes our way every day.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
questions, great answers. Raquel, did you have a follow-up question? I thought I saw your hand up a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to Jim, that was a really good explanation of healing balancing technique, and that's going to be a very big highlight for viewers who are trying to understand that. So, thank you so much for that. I would just add to the others that are probably not understanding what clearly or grasping it. You're having experiences, good, what you might deem good or bad, but it doesn't matter. If you're enjoying or not enjoying the experience. It's for the creator. And so you are learning through those experiences, but the creator is the one that's really, gaining I guess, the fruit from the experience, right? And you gain some as well because you gain wisdom and understanding, but accepting all of the experiences is really the key. The acceptance of the experience and not letting the bad one overtake you or the good one overtake you. Just the acceptance of it is really where you will probably find your sweet spot. And that way now you can just use those catalysts, as Jim was saying, and polarize through them and learn, grow, and gain the wisdom, and all that now gets transferred to the creator. And then that's you becoming the creator as well. That part was so key for me, Jim, when you said that. You become more of the creator with every experience, not just the good one, not just the bad one, all of it, because that becomes 360. Thank you, Jim. That one hit home today. I appreciate
I'm
you.
glad, and you restated it perfectly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Jim, I did have a follow-up question about discipline of the personality. I think, as we've mentioned, Ross said at some point that there were three parts at the heart of the discipline of personality. One, know yourself. Two, accept yourself. And three, become the creator. I've read quite a few passages about discipline of the personality. I've read quite a few passages about what they refer to as work in consciousness. And they seem more or less the same thing to me. They seem to be both about balancing catalyst, about balancing energy centers, about experiencing infinity in the indigo ray or third eye chakra. Would you say that discipline of the personality and work in consciousness are more or less the same thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Are there any important differences? Because if there are, I haven't really picked up on them.
I don't think there are any. I think that that's it. You hit the nail on the head.
Wow, fascinating. Thank you. Let's see. I saw that Grace had a question. Thank you for waiting, Grace. Did you have a question? And then I see Dan and Ari after that.
Yes, good morning. My question was about the role of humility in one's spiritual journey. And I know in some channelings in the past, Carla had asked about humility, but I think that was more specific to her balancing that on her path of essentially martyrdom, humility and pride, and how that plays a role. So my question was, Jim, just picking your brain, what you think humility's role is in one's spiritual progress.
Well, I think humility for me is trying to get the ego out of the way, not trying to take credit for whatever I might do that might be helpful to somebody else, just wanting to be helpful and letting the desire to be helpful be what motivates my path, not getting anything back in return.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Great question, Grace. Thank you so much. Dan was next, and Dan noted in the chat window that he's in a crowded airport and not quite able to ask his question on mic. So he put his question in the chat window. So if you don't mind, Jim, I'll just read what he wrote. He said, the question is a bit about how Jim's brain works. Do you compare spiritual experiences you've had? And what is your relationship with expectations? In other words, have you experienced anything quite as spectacular as the raw contact since, in your opinion? Have you tried to? Did it all leave you seeking to repeat it? And what do you now expect when you seek channeling and finding every time, or do you release all expectations?
Well, I try to release all expectations. I don't want to do anything other than be of service to others. Whether I'm channeling or helping my neighbor with difficult problems, just no expectations. That's been my New Year's resolution for the last 2 years, to give with an expectation of return, because I'm not very good at it and I'm still working on it.
Nice. Yeah, that is a great question to ask, Dan. Much appreciate it. I never even thought of that. Would you say, Jim, I don't know if you compare your experiences during the time of the raw contact to your experiences since then? Have you experienced anything like that, or is it just such a different thing you wouldn't compare it to anything else?
Okay, experience anything like what?
I guess whatever you experienced during those years of the raw contact. I mean, you were not channeling raw yourself, so I guess I wouldn't ask you about comparing channeling raw to channeling quo, but I guess just that experience as part of your spiritual journey at that time compared to experiences in your spiritual journey since, are they comparable at all, or just different?
Well, I would say that the experience of the raw contact was the foundation for the rest of my life. It was such an amazing experience. Being able to actually, listen to Carla channeling Raw's answers to Don's questions. Don was, he had a lot of expertise in a lot of different fields. He knew a lot of information about UFOs. He was extremely intelligent. He had a great intuition. He would frequently get questions for the following raw contact. We'd meditate in the living room and questions would come to him. So that was a time that it's hard to believe I was part of it. It seems like it was another incarnation, but it's something that I built the rest of my life on.
Nice. Yeah, makes perfect sense to me. And it's been such a blessing for everyone here on the Zoom call and everyone watching this on video, and many people who probably don't even realize it have also benefited from also. And I did want to note, it's been a while since anyone has asked if you have ever thought about making contact with Ra again. And I just wanted to remind all of our viewers that we have been making contact with Ra through contact with Quo, who is a group entity, shall we say, made up of Ra at 6th density and Latui at 5th density and Hatan at 4th density and occasionally other Confederation entities jumping in. But yeah, it's such a beautiful thing and a blessing that those channelings of Quo have gone on since mid 1980s all the way up to present day. So much appreciation to you, Jim, as well as Austin and Gary and Trish on the channeling team for enabling us to continue that contact. I see Ari had a question. Ari, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
So I'm curious about, it's kind of like really pertinent in my own life, but I'm wondering about like necessity versus like desire, and asceticism versus like how do I not completely dualize my mind so that all I see are hedonism and asceticism, and like those two polarities? How do I feel comfortable in the gray area, in the middle path, like the Buddha talked about, or like the Ra, like just accepting the oneness? Like, how do I genuinely, like, it's really difficult for me to like to not beat myself up on one end, and then to on the other end not beat myself up. It's the same thing on both ends. So it's just hard to even in the middle not to continue that pattern, because it's so prevalent everywhere. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or not, but if you do, please and thank you.
Well, if I understand your question correctly, I would suggest that whatever you're feeling, whether it's hedonism or it was excess, that you balance them. You use the balancing exercises so that you accept yourself for having both of those ways of being in your natural life pattern as a way to know more of the Creator, to give the Creator more ways of knowing itself, and that you use everything that comes your way, whether you can categorize them one way or another, use them all as grist for the mill, ways to grow, using your catalyst to help you move forward on your spiritual journey. Whatever it's, there isn't anything that you can experience that can't be part of your spiritual journey. It's all here for us to use.
Beautiful. Any follow-up questions on that, Ari? No, thank you. Jim, I wanted to note that Dan did type a thank you message in the chat window for answering his question. He says, "Thank you for that answer. I appreciate that very much, and send my love to you, your cats, and your garden."
And I send my love right back to you.
Indeed, beautiful. Let's see, we have a question from Juliana and then Michael, and then we'll probably wrap it up after that. Juliana, would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Hey everyone. Hey Jim. So much of the questions and the answers that come up are moving from 3rd density to 4th density and the 4th density harvest. And I'm just curious, for wanderers who are here to help assist in that process, are we going to join them in 4th and help them also in 4th? Or do you think that after the harvest, then we go back up to 5th or 6th and then move on? Or just more about the wanderer's path and where we end up at harvest, I guess is my question.
Well, I believe each wanderer, before he or she comes here, goes before the Council of Saturn and makes what you might call a pact, a contract, or a promise to offer your various skills to help the 3rd density beings on planet Earth to become able to see the Creator in everyone, to love everyone at least 51% of the time, try to help everyone become aware of the need for becoming conscious of the part that the third density plays in helping us move forward. So that after you have accomplished your mission and you drop your body and you walk into the light, you will probably go back to your home density. Some wanderers, according to Ra, have been here for 50,000 years, 2 major cycles. So I think it varies widely as to how long a wanderer will be here on Earth. But I don't think that wanderers would join the fourth density beings, because they have their own path to follow now that they are no longer on this side of the veil. They see more clearly what the creation is like and why they're here. And they may decide to come back as wanderers, although Ross suggested most wanderers are of sixth density, and aren't too many fourth density wanderers, because it takes a lot of what they say, foolhardiness or bravery to come back to the third density. It's a challenge.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your question.
Great question, Juliana. Thank you. We have one more question from Michael.
Hey, Jim. I just had a quick question. I was curious about it for a few months. I was on the LL Research YouTube channel, and there was a radio program on there I listened to. It was, I think, maybe an hour and a half long, maybe from 1977, 78 with Carla and Don. Was that the same radio show that you heard them on when you first listened to them?
Was it WKQQ Radio in Lexington, Kentucky that was interviewing them?
Yes. Yep.
That was it. That was it.
Okay. I thought it was a good one. Yeah, it was fun to listen to.
Yeah, I was living off the grid at that time in central Kentucky in a log cabin, but fortunately I had a battery powered radio, and so I was able to listen to that synchronistically. I think it was meant to happen.
Wow. Oh, that's really cool. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. I appreciate your question. Good times.
Great question indeed. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here on Zoom and for sharing your questions. As always, I've learned a lot from you guys and from Jim, so thank you so much for this time and for the learning together. Jim, of course, we do have one more thing to do, and that, of course...
What would that be?
That, of course, would be the pop quiz. Pop quiz, of course, is something we like to do at the end of our time together, just to kind of end on a fun note and maybe look for law of one connections in pop culture. So since yesterday was a significant holiday for those who live in the United States, it seems only fitting that we should have a pop quiz on the 4th of July, aka Independence Day. For those who haven't seen this before, Hatan on March 23rd, 1983, said that many of those which you now know as the so-called founding fathers of this culture were indeed wanderers who had incarnated in what you may call a great wave of incarnations, that they might offer together the concept of freedom and freedom of choice to entities upon your planet. Beautiful way to look at it. So today, Jim, I'm going to ask you 3 multiple choice questions about this special holiday. See how many you can answer correctly. Those of you on Zoom, you can put your answers in the chat window if you want. You who are watching on video, you can say your answers out loud. We can hear you through time space. As always, points don't matter. If you had fun, you won. If you learned something interesting about our founding wanderers or the 4th of July holiday, you won as well. Are you ready for your first question, Jim?
Yep.
First question. When was the Declaration of Independence signed? Was it July 4th, 1776? July 2nd, 1776, or August 2nd, 1776?
Well, I would have to go with July 4th, 1776, but I'm going to go with July 2nd, 1776.
You've done a few of these pop quizzes before, I can tell. The correct answer, as far as I can tell, is all of the above, in spite of the painting.
All of the above?
Yeah, in spite of the painting that shows this gathering of all the delegates signing at the same time, there is no record of that actually happening. I believe, let's see, I'm just going to read straight from my notes. The signing was not actually done on July 4th. It is generally accepted that the Declaration of Independence was not signed on the 4th of July. That's just the day that the document was formally dated, finalized, and adopted by the Continental Congress, which had officially voted for independence on July 2nd. And that was the day John Adams thought we should actually celebrate independence. But most of the 56 official signatures were actually done on August 2nd, with others following on a later date.
But didn't have everybody together at the same time, or why
No.
take so long?
Yeah, I think my understanding is the Continental Congress passed it, made it official, and then they took printed copies of it around and had people sign it at different places.
So they weren't all in one place.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I
And
got
they didn't have
two-thirds
e-sign
right.
back then. Are you ready for your second question?
I'm ready.
What year were fireworks first used to celebrate the 4th of July? Was it A, 1777, B, 1780, or C, 1787?
I'll take a wild guess. C, 1787.
Good guess. Correct answer is actually A, 1777, a year after. The first celebration, the year after the Declaration of Independence was made official. In 1776, after years of pent-up frustration, the colonies let loose upon hearing the words of the Declaration of Independence. Military personnel and civilians in the Bowling Green section of Manhattan tore down a statue of King George III and later melted it into bullets. Philadelphia patriots used the King's coat of arms as kindling for a bonfire. And in Savannah, Georgia, the citizens burned the king in effigy and held a mock funeral for the royal foe. The whole point was about ending monarchy. Independence Day celebrations began to look a little familiar, more familiar, just the following year. On July 4th, 1777, celebration in Philadelphia was described in the Virginia Gazette as follows. The evening was closed with the ringing of bells, and at night there was a grand exhibition of fireworks, which began and concluded with 13 rockets on the commons, and the city was beautifully illuminated. Everything was conducted with the greatest order and decorum, and the face of joy and gladness was universal. Nothing about barbecues and hot dogs or anything, but fireworks. Interesting.
So they had fireworks back then.
Yeah, I guess so. I would have thought it came quite a bit later than that as well, but there you have it. Are you ready for your last question?
Okay.
Which president or presidents died on the 4th of July? Is it A, John Adams, B, Thomas Jefferson, C, James Monroe, or D, Calvin Coolidge?
Well, it's going to have to be two if you've got four choices. So we will go with Thomas Jefferson and Calvin Coolidge.
Nice. Pretty close. Correct answer is in fact A, B, and C. Both John Adams, the second president of the United States, and Thomas Jefferson, the third president and formerly Adams vice president, they both died on July 4th, 1826, 50 years to the day after the Declaration of Independence was adopted. James Monroe, the fifth president, died a few years later on July 4th, 1831. Calvin Coolidge is the only president who was born on the 4th of July in 1872. And you were telling us before we started recording, I think, that two of your cats died on the 4th of July. Is that correct? Two of your favorite cats?
Dandelion died on the 4th of July. Chloe died 4 days earlier on June 30th.
So
actually, they went into larger life because, as I mentioned, Carla came to me in a dream and in my meditation and told me all about how it happened and what they were doing, that they were using their cat's curiosity to explore a larger part of their lives now that they were in third density beings, and that they were glad that they were here, and they come to visit me now and then, and they send me their love.
Oh, such a beautiful thing. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. What a wonderful thought to hold. It is worth noting that Thomas Jefferson is considered the primary author of the Declaration of Independence. He was highly regarded for his writing abilities, so he drafted it, but it was reviewed by a committee of others on the Second Continental Congress, and It was actually handwritten by somebody else, Timothy Matlack, who was a brewer and beer bottler from Pennsylvania. That's the handwriting that you see there. But the wording was Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
And for those who didn't know this, Ross said that Jefferson was a wanderer. Session 26, question 15, Ross said, I think Don was asking a question about whether Abraham Lincoln was a wanderer. Ra replied saying, no, he was not, and said, you would do better considering the incarnations of wanderers, such as the one known as Thomas, the one known as Benjamin. Questioner, I am assuming you mean Thomas Edison and Benjamin Franklin. Ra, this is incorrect. We were intending to convey the sound vibration complex, Thomas Jefferson. The other correct. So beautiful things to contemplate as we celebrate our freedom and independence from monarchy in the United States. Want to thank everyone for being here. And Jim, as always, thank you for sharing your time and wisdom with us. Did you have any last thoughts, reflections you wanted to share before we say goodbye?
Well, I want to thank everybody for your questions. I could feel the love that you were imbuing them with. And I think your questions that you asked today probably are some of the best I've ever heard. And I'm giving you my opinion, and I hope that I did a good job. But I thank you for your open-hearted sharing. And you're just a beautiful group of folks. I always love being here with you on Saturdays, first Saturday of the month. And I hope the rest of your days go well. And I look forward to seeing you again. I love you all.
Love you too. Thank you as always for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. Thank you so much. For everyone who joined us on the Zoom call here today, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. And to you who are watching this on video in the near or distant future, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We are sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator, Adonai. Namaste.